Today, we're discussing Quebec's ban on prayer rooms and perhaps prayer in general in public schools. In April, Quebec's education minister ordered a ban on prayer rooms after learning some schools were permitting students to gather on school property for prayer. Those cases all involved Muslim students. The education minister has said that permitting prayer in public schools runs counter to Quebec's policy of laïcité, official secularism, and that students who want to pray should do so, to quote him, discreetly and silently. The ban has been challenged by the Canadian Civil Liberties Association and the National Council of Canadian Muslims. The full merits of that challenge will be heard in the fall. Is the Quebec ban on prayer and prayer rooms for students unconstitutional? And what does neutrality of religion actually mean? Here today to discuss this are two experts. Derek Ross is with the Christian Legal Fellowship, and Harini Sivalingam is with the Canadian Civil Liberties Association. Thank you both so much for joining me today. Harini, let's start with what this prayer room actually does, prayer room ban actually does. What exactly is being banned here?
So this is not just a ban on prayer rooms. The directive issued by the Minister of Education in Quebec effectively prohibits any and all religious practices. So this is effectively a ban on all prayers. It prohibits students, especially those who are not able to pray discreetly or silently, from doing so on school premises. Moreover, school education centers are now obliged to apply the directive to ensure that school administrators, such as principals and other school staff, are following the directive to ensure that no place is used in fact or appearance for religious purposes. So this is highly problematic, which is why we are challenging this prohibition that restricts religious freedoms of students in
So,
Quebec.
so Derek, what does this actually mean for students in practice? I mean, if they can't use a room to pray in, and if they can't use any part of the school to pray in, and I'm thinking in particular, these cases involved Muslim students who pray 5 times a day, and it's overt. Are they expected to, leave school grounds to pray? And if they can't, use a private room and they can't pray in the hallway, I suppose, is what is also apparently being banned. What exactly is the expectation for these students?
Well, that's exactly the problem, Christine, and that question is still something of an open question. It's unclear exactly how the government is expecting school authorities to enforce this. What are the consequences for students who do end up praying or are quote unquote caught praying? It seems the expectation is the only option available to students is to leave school property, potentially in inclement weather, which is itself very concerning. As Harini mentioned, it's not just a policy about regulating classroom bookings, it's a restriction on religious practices, period. And that raises another question. What constitutes a religious practice? Is meditation okay? Is yoga okay if it involves spiritual chanting? And if so, then why are those okay and prayer isn't? A lot of
Great
questions.
points. Yeah. Um, so, Harini, one of the things I want to make clear to people is this isn't about an obligation on schools to proactively create, a chapel within the school or a prayer room within the school. It's about banning students or prohibiting students from, for example, booking a room that could otherwise be booked by the art club or the chess club. But these students who want to book it for prayer would be prohibited, right? This isn't about a positive obligation.
No, absolutely. It's not about the positive obligation of schools to proactively provide dedicated spaces in schools to for religious purposes. And what's problematic is that it's so widely applicable to any type of religious practices, and furthermore, it prevents schools from being able to offer accommodations to students, which they have been receiving without any disruptions or any disruption to the school day. So this has been, not a problem that like schools have been facing. This isn't an issue that anybody has raised concerns about. Schools have been able to provide students with accommodations prior to this directive, and the problem is that now they're not able to be able to accommodate students.